Welcome back to Flash Tales. For years, the conversation around Grand Theft Auto 6 has been dominated by leaks and theories. But as we get closer, a clearer picture is starting to form, and that picture points to one central design philosophy: creating the most realistic and immersive open world ever made. It's a goal that goes far beyond just graphics. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the specific features and details that suggest Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't just an evolution for the series, but a potential revolution in what we consider a living, breathing digital world. We're going to explore everything from the sheer scale of the map and the complexity of its AI systems, to the subtle, dynamic details in its characters that bring them to life. So let's begin our journey into what could be a new standard for realism in gaming. The first and most fundamental pillar of this new standard for realism is the world itself. Based on what we've seen, Rockstar isn't just building a city, they're building an entire state, and the sense of scale is staggering. Official footage has given us breathtaking aerial views of the Leonida Keys, showcasing long, narrow islands stretching for miles into a beautifully rendered ocean. This isn't just for show. A map of this size creates a genuine sense of travel and distance. Flying a seaplane from one end of the Keys to the mainland won't be a quick trip. It will feel like a journey, making the world feel less like a condensed playground and more like a real place. This sense of scale extends far inland to the vast wilderness areas. We've seen glimpses of the grass rivers, the game's version of the Everglades, and they appear truly immense, a huge, open expanse of nature that feels genuinely remote and dangerous. This commitment to a realistic scale has a direct impact on gameplay. It makes planning more important and transportation choices more meaningful. It makes the state of Leonida feel like a genuine, sprawling location with diverse regions, not just a single city with some countryside tacked on. This is world building on a geographical level, and it's the bedrock of the game's immersive power. But a massive world is nothing more than an empty stage without believable life. This is where Grand Theft Auto 6 appears to be taking another huge leap forward, focusing not just on the grand spectacle of crime, but on the small, quiet moments that build character and make the world feel lived in. A perfect example of this is a promotional screenshot showing Jason and his friend Cal simply shooting hoops on a public basketball court. The fact that Rockstar would choose to feature such a quiet, slice-of-life moment is itself very telling. Instead of highlighting explosions or high-speed chases, they're showcasing the game's social dynamics and the depth of its world simulation. It tells us that the ability for these characters to simply exist and hang out in the world is a core, marketable feature of the game's intended realism. The focus on the small details within this scene is also significant. The quality of Jason's shooting animation, right down to the flick of his wrist, shows a commitment to realism even in what might be a casual side activity. These slice-of-life moments are crucial for immersion. They ground the characters and make the high-stakes criminal action that follows feel more impactful because it's disrupting a world that feels genuinely real. A realistic world isn't just about recreating what we already know. It's about surprising us with a depth of detail we never thought possible. This raises a fascinating question. What is the one surprising but plausible feature that would push Grand Theft Auto 6 into truly next-level territory? A truly mind-blowing feature would be if the video game consoles we see in the characters' safe houses were actually playable. I'm not talking about a simple one-off Easter egg like the arcade games of the past. I'm talking about a real game within a game. Imagine a full mini-game inside Grand Theft Auto 6, with its own levels, its own progression, and even its own in-game save files for your character's progress. Lucia or Jason could have their own favorite video game that they play to unwind after a heist, and their performance in that game would be a persistent part of your main save file. This kind of feature would represent a monumental commitment to world building and immersion. It's the type of detail that makes the world feel less like a set designed for the player and more like a real functioning reality where people have their own hobbies and lives. It would push the boundaries of what a side activity can be, transforming it from a simple distraction into a genuine part of your character's life. A realistic world doesn't stop at the shoreline. The state of Leonida is a coastal environment, and a huge part of its realism will depend on the life teeming beneath the waves. This brings us to the marine life and specifically to one of the ocean's top predators, sharks. Official screenshot has confirmed the presence of sharks in the waters of Vice City, both in wide-open beach scenes and as stealthy figures lurking just beneath the surface. This isn't just about adding a new animal model. Given the new standard for realism we're seeing, the inclusion of sharks points to a much deeper and more dangerous marine ecosystem. It raises the question of how brutal and common these encounters will be. It's plausible we'll see dynamic, unscripted events where sharks might attack not just the player, but other NPCs on boats or in the water. The presence of a major predator like the shark is the key to a believable marine food chain, suggesting that the incredible detail we've seen in the land-based ecosystem will be mirrored in the ocean. The water will no longer be a safe barrier or a simple travel route. It will be a living and potentially deadly part of the wilderness. This focus on a detailed and dangerous natural world is another fundamental piece of the game's push for a new level of immersion. In the vacuum of official news, a whole economy of information emerges, populated by so-called insiders. A perfect example is a recent rumor that not only suggests a potential delay for Grand Theft Auto 6 from May to September 2026, but also provides a detailed breakdown of the game's potential pricing and release strategy. The rumor outlines a standard edition at around £70, a deluxe edition at £90 that includes early GTA Online access, and a premium edition at a staggering £110 offering first GTA Online access. It also mentions a dedicated PS5 marketing partnership and plans for console bundles after the game's launch. The most significant detail here is the idea of tiered early access to GTA Online. This would be a new strategy for Rockstar, creating different buy-in levels for the most dedicated online players and suggesting a release model that is heavily focused on monetizing the online component from day one. While it is crucial to remember that this is an unverified rumor from an anonymous source, what makes it so compelling is that the details themselves are incredibly plausible. Tiered editions, early access, and high price points all align perfectly with modern AAA gaming industry trends. It's a perfect example of a leak that is impossible to verify but feels completely believable, which is what makes the long wait for official news so challenging. For decades, video game protagonists have been largely static creations. Their faces and their builds typically remain consistent regardless of the situation. But in Grand Theft Auto 6, it appears Rockstar is aiming for a new level of dynamic character realism, and the evidence is Lucia's constantly changing appearance. Across the various trailers and leaked footage, Lucia's character model looks noticeably different from one shot to the next. In one scene, she might look weary and worn down. In another, glamorous and done up for a night out. This isn't an inconsistency. It's a feature, and it's the result of several layers of technology working together. The most obvious reason is a massive leap in lighting. The variations we're seeing suggest a fully dynamic lighting engine, where different times of day and light sources will drastically and realistically alter her appearance, just as they would a real person. But it goes deeper than that. The changes also point to an incredibly deep character customization system, with different hairstyles and clear use of makeup being visible. The most game-changing implication, however, is that her appearance might change dynamically based on the situation. The idea that factors like a potential weight and fitness mechanic could alter her appearance would be a monumental improvement. A character who looks different on a day-to-day basis, depending on context, is a huge step forward for immersion, moving away from a static model to a truly dynamic human representation. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive with Flash Tales. Let me know which of these features you're most excited about in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.